Welcome to Carl and Heather Present,
the podcast where we dive into the insights, challenges, and humor of being married to someone who is nothing like you.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Oh, don't you know it's Carl and Heather Present Marriage Podcast.
No matter where you're from, no matter where you are, if you're newlywed or nearly dead, this is where you belong. For the long-time listener or the first-time caller, for the professor or the minister or the last place finisher, the smart kids, the nerds, the jocks, and the ball droppers, for the princess or the frog, from New Zealand to Prague,
Antipodes.
and for the homecoming queen or the knot on a log, like a message in a bottle floating up through the fog, it's Carl and Heather Present.
Dang, babe.
Yeah.
That's like a new level.
Pharrell and a lot of other producers are reaching out to me to do bars for
Is
them.
this going to end Carl and Heather Present and begin like your
Well, I've already had a
rap-ish?
very successful music career.
I think this is a different genre though.
Am I reinventing myself?
Reinventing. I love it.
Well, how does it feel to be married to the next big 50-year-old hip-hop star?
It feels great.
Yeah.
You and Eminem. Is he 50? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
Hey.
It might be. So anyway, I thought that was great.
Thank you.
What a great intro.
Welcome to Carl and Heather Present.
Thanks. How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah.
I'm out here living my rap dreams.
Trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm out here trying to stay dry. This is what we like to call in Middle Tennessee the rainy season, where
It
it's
has
rained
rained
for days on end.
10 out of 7 days.
And it's like you got to cut your grass every 4 days. Which, do you say mow the lawn or cut the grass?
I say cut the grass.
Cut the grass.
Rich people say mow the lawn.
Rich people say you mow the lawn. We say who's going to cut the grass.
Yeah. Who's gonna cut the grass?
Right. But my ferns are loving it. Right. Our ferns are loving it. My hair's not. So here we are.
Got a little too much frizz.
A little too much going on. I need extra product in it, so it's not working out for me. But
That's okay.
anyway, yeah. Well, I'm going to go to some listener comments, unless you want to update us on how you're doing. I kind of skipped right over you.
Let's go to listener comments.
Okay. All right.
I'm not trying to get out of saying how I'm doing.
Right, okay.
But I'm doing fine.
You're doing fine. Okay. So Solomon on Facebook says, and he said this regarding the SEGS. We said SEGS talk. Y'all know what that means?
Segs.
As a young Christian man looking to get married in the near future, I think it's a great topic for an established Christian couple to talk about. Well, excluding my parents. He
Yes.
said that. And Solomon, we hear you. We appreciate that and that you want to talk about it, as well as not wanting your parents to be the one that's you're listening to as an adult.
I like Solomon's description of us as an established Christian couple.
Established.
I thought that was nice.
That's a kind way of saying
Good.
mature. Is
Yeah.
it maybe
It's
mature?
a good brother. That was from YouTube.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook. Thank you.
yeah.
From Facebook. Thank you, Solomon. Anybody out there listening to, enjoying the podcast, please comment, rate, review it, like it, wherever you get into it. Those kind of things, it helps us to spread the word. It means the world to us, and it really is a way you can help us to reach more people for the podcast, because it's not just a podcast, but it's a ministry.
Yeah.
And we also want to join people in prayer for your marriages. It's been awesome to see the engagement on this thing, the prayer thing, like really start to take traction. People reach out pretty often to say, would you please pray with us? And of course, we always say, it's anonymous. We're not talking about your business on the podcast, that this is not the place for that. But we always pray for people. We pray for marriages. We try to engage people as much as they would like on whatever help they need. But really, the best help that any of us need is just to pray with somebody and to keep moving forward in prayer. So if you want to pray, if you need prayer for your marriage, for anything really, the email address is hi@carlandheather.com, hi@carlandheather.com. We'd love to pray for you. We'd love to journey with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today's episode is interesting because it comes based on an anonymous question that we got at a marriage conference that we were speaking at a couple months ago. We get questions that come in, and I thought this one was interesting. It was actually the first time that we ever had this question. Oftentimes the questions will be similar, but this was a unique question. And the question was, how do you know if you married the right person? And then this person went on to say, I believe I chose the wrong one, and it's time to throw in the towel.
Okay.
How do you know if you married the right person? Like, is there this one right person for everybody? Like my soulmate, the one. And if I picked the wrong one, if there is such a thing, and I picked the wrong one, how do I know that? And like, when do I say, well, I must have picked the wrong one. Time to throw in the towel.
Time to throw in the towel.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I picked wrong.
Right. I chose poorly.
Well, you and I we've talked about this a lot. We talked about this when we first got married and dating and things like that. But we don't think you can pick the wrong person. If that is true, then someone long ago messed up the algorithm, and none of us are married to the right person by now.
We know a lot of people who've made bad choices, right?
Yeah. Marrying the right person is a joke. Being the right person is what it takes to make a marriage work. And becoming the right person is only possible through the power of Jesus. None of us are sharp enough, especially as a collective humanity, to say like, yeah, we all married the right person, and we're all doing this right, and no, all of us have messed up. It's not about marrying the right person. It's about becoming the right person, and how we go about that, and deciding to. That throwing in the towel is of course it's an option.
Sure.
But we want to encourage people to stay the course because there's a whole lot more reasons for staying the course than there is just, cashing in, starting over.
And I think that's the root of that question. So there's is there this perfect person for you, this soulmate? But really maybe they believe that. Actually, I don't know if that part's true or not, but what I do know is that this thing is hard, and it feels like it's been an uphill battle. It feels like I picked the wrong person because we just can't seem to get on the same page. We just seem to be two totally different people.
And it's right to say about this episode, before we get into all this, if statistics bear out, about half or maybe more than half of the people listening are divorced or separated or at some point along the process of that, or maybe they're like, hey, no, you don't know how bad it's been.
Sure.
I do want to throw in the towel. So I want to make sure we say that we understand that's a reality.
Yeah.
And we're not preaching at you or fussing at anybody or anything like that. It's just we want to talk about what a process would look like if you're at the point of throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
If you're trying to decide, hey, is this worth it?
Right.
That's what we're trying to get at today. And no matter what marriage you're in, good, bad, great, no marriage is static, and everything is redeemable. So that's where we're going at it today.
Absolutely. And it's today. We're starting with today. Where are you today?
Yeah.
And it made us think, as we were talking about this, our own marriage.
Yeah.
And just a piece of our story that I don't think we've shared on the podcast before, but it takes you back 27 years to our very first year of marriage.
You were my first wife.
First wife. And maybe at that point I was thinking I was going to be not your wife, because although I think we had made the decision, we are not going to get a divorce. We both wanted to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
Like we had both decided pretty quickly into our marriage. And I even remember one night we had gotten in a fight, and there's so many reasons, and we'll talk about this in a second, but we had gotten in a fight and you left for whatever, I don't know where you went. I think you said you don't even remember this, but you left. And I remember just sitting at the table, my Bible was open, I was crying, and I felt so isolated and alone because I felt like everybody around me had the perfect marriage, and I was a newlywed. And we were in ministry, and I was supposed to have this great marriage, and it was supposed to be going great, and it was not going great. It was the opposite. And I was just crying out to the Lord, and really my heart then was, well, how do I just make this work? Right? How do I make this to where we don't get a divorce? I wasn't even thinking thriving,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, we made a mistake. I don't know if we should have gotten married. But it's too late. We already said I do, because we really did believe and still do believe that marriage is a covenant.
Right.
It's not a contract.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that we didn't go into it lightly. And it was not something that we actually had the option to throw in the towel. It was like, we're in this forever, but it did feel, I don't want to say hopeless, but it was pretty dark.
Because it was we struggled from basically our wedding night.
Yeah.
It just didn't go like anybody planned it.
Right.
Or hoped that it would go.
Absolutely
The
not.
expectations were quickly unmet.
Yes.
Because of the timing of all of that, it did tempt me to say, this won't matter in 5 years if we just get out of it now.
Yeah.
And there was a lot going on. For me, when I came into our marriage, my deal was I had, this belief that my whole world was just really cool before I got married. And I was even reluctant to get married.
Yes, I remember this.
I was kind of a fun-loving bachelor. I had, I was playing music. I'd bought my own house. The merits of getting married were I'm not real sure. Even though that even is embarrassing to say right now, for me, I had a lot of pride in trying to hold on to something that that I thought I had before marriage, and what I characterized as disappointment with you when we first got married was really just pride and arrogance and not realizing what I was even doing as a new husband. I was looking at marriage as if everything works out like it's supposed to, I'm going to marry Heather and my life will get better. Well, when it got harder, it was almost like it was just an immaturity and a pride that I didn't understand really what I was getting into or what God was trying to do in me through being married. I thought it was a way to get happier, to get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can relate to that in the sense that I brought my own stuff into this marriage. We knew we were going to stick it out, but then we also had to figure out, okay, how do we not just survive in this? How are we married to each other for the long haul? And we have joy in this, and we have sustainability, and it's not just this. I mean, we all know people who've said, we're going to stick it out, and they just, that's all that they do, and then they're just old and bitter, and it's just rotten to be around them, and you know that. But for me, you had mentioned our wedding night. I came into the relationship with a lot of shame. I was broken sexually, emotionally, spiritually. All of those kind of tie together. And if somebody says, well, you can separate those, I would say, liar, liar, pants on fire. You absolutely cannot separate those.
You would really get them if you said that.
I would say that.
They wouldn't know what to say back to you.
And I needed to be healed. And the Lord used counseling to do that. A lot of counseling. But I needed some help. And I needed to just focus on my own growth, my own healing, and really just surrender and ask myself, God, what do you want to change in me? Not why is Carl not a better husband?
Well, and for me, it was about letting go of controlling these expectations, controlling you. I thought you were supposed to be and do something that I had idealized in my mind. And when you didn't do it, and then I also couldn't make you be what I thought you ought to be. Yeah. That's a very prideful posture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let alone an impossible expectation. So it was a very hard lesson for me to learn, especially early on, that my role in this marriage was to lay down my life for you and to serve you just like Christ served and loved the church. And I got to be honest, when I got married to you, I was not thinking that.
Right.
I said all the right things.
Right.
I tried to read all the right books and do all the right things, but at a heart level, my main thing was just like this. I hope I get happier, or I hope this is awesome, and hope we become like this great thing. But it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
We had to own, both of us had to own our own stuff.
Yeah. For sure.
Proverbs 20:13. He who covers his sins will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will find mercy. We had to own our own stuff and get moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think we're still doing that 27 years later,
Yeah.
but and it kind of ebbs and flows. It's ups and downs on that because selfishness is a hard root to dig out.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Do you want to share that verse from Galatians? I think that's great.
Galatians
6.
6, 1-3. This is from the Message.
I love the Message.
It's abbreviated MSG, which is not good for you.
Don't email us if you don't like the Message, because just, yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there's only a couple people that would email us about
The Message.
reading from the Message. I won't name them,
Won't name
but
them.
I hope they still listen to the
Okay.
podcast.
Anyway.
Galatians 6,
Yeah.
1-3. Live creatively, friends. If someone falls into sin, forgivingly restore them, saving your critical comments for yourself. You might be needing forgiveness before the day's out. Stoop down and reach out to those who are oppressed. Share their burdens and so complete Christ's law. If you think you're too good for that, you're badly deceived. In other words, own your own stuff.
Yeah.
And stop trying to control someone else's behavior before you take initiative to examine your own heart
Yeah.
and your own life and to see where you might be more formed into the image of Christ before you insist that somebody else
Right.
goes before you.
Right. Well, and I think that for somebody that's listening and for us, we may have been in a place where we confused discomfort with death. Like we were both immature. I mean, we were young, but we were in a lot of ways immature in our faith as well.
Sure.
And so no one likes to be uncomfortable. We all gravitate towards things that make us feel good, right? And so sometimes I think we can get to a place where we say, this feels like it's dying. If a marriage feels hard or you're disconnected, we were just talking about this tonight at dinner. Like, you don't have to have all the external circumstances be going great in your life for you to say you're close to your spouse, right?
Sure.
You can
Yeah,
have
yeah.
horrible things around you and feel closer than you've ever felt. But if it's hard to connect, you feel disconnected, it doesn't mean it's dead. It could mean that you're being refined, right? And it may be God's way of just sanctifying us, because really marriage is a mirror. And that's really hard for me, but it really has been. And I had to ask myself, so what is this conflict, not just then, but even now? Like, what is this revealing to me about my own heart? And I think what it has shown me and revealed to me is that I am more after my happiness than my holiness. I'm seeking something for me. And there's a verse in 1 Peter that I love, and it says, since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. Jesus never says in the Bible, be happy as I am happy. It's be holy as I am holy. And as Christ followers, we have to understand that marriage, in the same way Christianity is this way, it's not this ascension to focusing on me, where I'm always first and foremost. It's actually a dissension into serving others, most of all your spouse.
But we talk about, though, like, I want a happy marriage.
Yes,
No one wants to be married and miserable.
absolutely.
I even hate that idea, and
Yeah.
I know people that are in that boat, and it's a
Right.
it's a real drag.
Right. But I think
You're not trying to take happiness from me, are you?
not trying to take happiness, but when you are holy marriages are marked by repentance and forgiveness and grace. And what those things do, if I'm quick to forgive, if I'm quick to forgive you grace, that builds for us deep, lasting intimacy. Like when I used to think it was weird when people would say it's better than it's ever been. And I'm thinking, you guys are old. Like when I was in my 20s and I would see somebody been married for 20, 30, 40 years. How does it get better? Are you not just tired of each other? Are you not just like bored? But I understand how when you live with someone who consistently offers you grace and who consistently offers you forgiveness and consistently repents to you for things that they've done wrong, that builds this deep, deep foundation that's rooted so deep that it feels like nothing can shake it. And it's a beautiful thing. And happiness does come from that. It's a byproduct because there's this consistent, solid peace that's abiding that is not there without it. And it's really just you look more like Christ, you know?
You said, I see you written down in this note here that real marriage, real love is forged in fire, not in fairy tales.
Right.
That's pretty
Absolutely.
good. Did you make that up?
No.
Okay.
I'm sure. It was, I stole it from somebody.
That's
somewhere.
really good though, because it's a good way of saying
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Well, we all know, like, our emotions feelings are fickle and they kind of go like this, up and down, up and down. And that's really what we see on screens, and that's what we see in Hollywood, and that's what we see depicted as like, if you have all these feelings for this person, then you have a good, solid marriage. But when your feelings go away, then it's time to throw in the towel and move on. That is absolutely not true. And I would say that's not true whether you're a Christian or not. Because if you follow that path in marriage, you could be married 15, 20 times in a lifetime, or as many times, or why get married? You just move on to the next person. There's no reason to do that because feelings are fickle and they're going to change.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, it highlights, I think, a misunderstanding in the culture of what marriage is.
Right. And I think you have to, there was a verse that I kind of skipped over at the beginning, but it was Mark 10:9, and it says, "What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate." And it's this idea that marriage was ordained by God. It was
Right.
God's idea. And because it is God's plan for us, no man can separate that, because God has joined us together. Now, I will say this, back to the original, before we move on back to your original point about there's not a perfect person for you. When you say I do, and you enter into covenant with that person, that becomes your person.
Yeah. Marriage is permanent.
Yes,
It's designed to be permanent.
absolutely. Absolutely. We do this thing when we speak where we show a picture of like wood glue.
Yep.
And then we show a picture of sticky notes, and the world will teach you it's like sticky notes. Like, I'll stick to you, and then when that gets old, I'll stick to somebody else and I'll pull off. But that's not really what happens when you're separated like that. Like if you've ever wood glued something together, when you pull it apart, it shatters both pieces of wood.
Yeah, it's designed to be a permanent bond.
Yes.
And so when you separate it, you have to break it.
Yes.
There's damage to both of the original pieces of
Yes.
wood that came together, and all kinds of residue,
Yep.
all kinds of shrapnel, all kinds of things that it makes you broken.
Yeah.
It hurts you. And we say it like this, God hates divorce. He doesn't hate divorced people.
Right.
He hates divorce because he knows what it does to people,
Yeah.
and how it hurts, and how it tears a piece of us off
Right.
every time we go through it. And that, that's a good picture of why I think you and I would say, no, this is maybe even more worth fighting for than you can realize now, because you might feel like, I'm throwing in the towel. This is too hard.
Right.
And I am sure it's hard. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it to keep
Absolutely.
going.
Absolutely. And so how does this, we ask this every episode, we ask this question, how in the world does this intersect with the gospel?
Right.
And so what would you say to somebody who's listening who may say, that was you guys in your first year? And let me be clear. that was not just the first year. That's just one of the many stories we could share about struggle. That was just the very first one we experienced. And it seemed to be really raw and real because it happened so quickly for us. Some people, it doesn't happen that quickly, but it happens. Yeah. The person who's listening who might be feeling like, I don't know, might be time to throw in the towel. What does the gospel say to that?
The best comeback stories always start with a loss or a death or, man, we're going to give up. This ain't worth it. That's the beginning of every good comeback story.
Yeah.
And the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which is the linchpin of Christianity, the darkest place in human history was Christ on the cross. All was lost. Everything was, hope was gone. That's the setup for the greatest story ever. So for people that are about to give up, if you are invested not only in just making things work, but in seeing something dead be brought back to life, that's where this intersects with the gospel. And it's the story of Ezekiel. He sees a valley of dry bones, just dead people everywhere, you know. And God gives him this picture of these dead things being reanimated into an army.
Yeah.
Life being wrapped back around old, dead, and decaying things. That's a beautiful thing. You know, to invite what only God can do into your circumstance, to heal, to redeem, and restore. That invitation is the beginning. Now, I can't put a timeline on it. I can't put a point on it. I guarantee if you do this in 6 months, everything will be good again. I do believe that resurrection is the story that's written into many of our hearts. And for those of us who know what it feels like to kind of be on the wrong side of losing, on the frustrating side of this isn't working like I thought it would, will it ever work? My hope is not in my ability to make something work. My hope is in Jesus, who conquered the grave, who filled me with his spirit, and who transformed me from death to life. And if Jesus can do that in me, and he can do that in you, then he will do that and keep doing that in our marriages. One of my favorite parables, it's kind of an obscure parable that Jesus taught. It's from Luke 13, 6 and 7. The Bible says this, and then he told them a story. A man had an apple tree planted in his front yard, and he came to it expecting to find apples, but there weren't any. And he said to his gardener, "What's going on here? For 3 years now, I have come to this tree expecting apples, and not one apple have I found. Chop this thing down. Why waste good ground with it any longer?" But the gardener said, "Let's give it another year. I'll dig around it and fertilize, and maybe it will produce next year. And if it doesn't, then we'll chop it down." The picture in that parable is this. As far as measuring up, should we be bearing more fruit than we are? Absolutely. We can't measure up to God's standard. Maybe if God's the gardener, or God is the owner of the tree. He's like, there's no fruit here. But the picture in the parable, you know, the gardener is Jesus saying, let me give it one more shot. Let me work on this tree a little bit more. And if you and I are open to the invitation of Christ to say, let me work on you a little bit more. Let me dig around here. That's his grace, his patience, his lovingness, his kindness towards us.
Yeah.
You know, to say, I'm able, right, if you just give me a chance.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus saying to us, I'm able. If you open the door to let me do it,
yeah,
you know, the invitation is open. Every broken marriage, God can heal it. He's in the resurrection business. Every broken life,
Yeah.
he can heal it. He's in the resurrection business. And that's what I would encourage everybody with today. Like, as we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to point people to an action step.
Yeah, let's
to
do
take
it. This will be
week.
fun.
This will be fun.
Yeah. We're gonna do it, and we'll post as well. So you tell them about what we're doing.
I just want to encourage everybody this week to draw a circle in the back of your hand. Do a Sharpie so it'll last.
Yeah.
But draw a circle in the back of your hand and let that be a reminder to you that you're the person in that circle. And this week and moving forward, you working on the person in the circle.
Yep.
You're the one in the circle. You're working on the person in the circle. You're not looking across at your spouse and saying, you're not enough, you're not worth it, I'm throwing in the towel because you're a jerk, you're mean to me, whatever thing that's making you throw in the towel. My encouragement to you, our encouragement to you this week and moving forward would just be to work on the person in the circle. Just draw that circle on your hand and let it be a reminder to you every time you look at it. I'm not working on him. I'm not working on her. I'm working on the person that's in the circle. I'm working on the person. And the way you work on it is by simply saying, Jesus, I'm open to your work in my life. You make me the husband or wife that I need to be.
Yeah.
Let this marriage be forming me into who you want me to be. And even if it hurts, it's worth it. Be open to the invitation of Jesus, who is saying, let me work on you a little bit more. I know I can bring it back.
Yeah. That's good, babe. Hey, work on the person in your circle. Thank you for listening. We're so thankful you're here. We love you. We'll see you next week. Together on Purpose.
Together on purpose.
Phew.